Good day, I'm Zaki Bhika from the Lab Productions, and as promised, part 2 with Dr. Keshavjee. Assalamu alaikum once again, Doctor.
Malikum salam, Zaki.
So, Doctor, this is really astounding because you apparently went back to university at the age of 58 and you did both an LLM honors and a PhD. What motivated you at this age to go back to university?
You know, Zaki, I worked for 30 years in France with the Secretariat of His Highness the Aga Khan.
Okay.
And he is passionate about lifelong education. The whole idea of education has been at the very focal point of the Ismaili understanding of doing things. And I always saw what the network was doing in different countries like Pakistan, India, with teacher education, with schools, school improvement programs, education for girls in northern Pakistan, and now it's doing a lot of work for education for girls in many other countries. And so I thought at the time that, look, I have become a barrister at law in 1969. I was working with the Aga Khan in the 80s. I said, look, am I going to be rusty? Should I not go back to university? So I wrote to him and I said, Your Highness, I would like to study while I'm working. And he was so gracious that he allowed me 2 days a week. And I went to England to do my program. Every week I would leave for going from France by the Eurostar to attend my lectures in England at London University. And Alhamdulillah, I did an LLM in international human rights, Arab comparative commercial law, Islamic law, and the fourth one was on, I can't remember. I did 4 topics. International protection of human rights, alternative dispute resolution, Arab comparative commercial law, and Islamic law.
Okay,
and I was fascinated by the lectures. All the students were about 20 years younger than me. But I thought, what am I going to do the first day? I'm going to look like an old foggy. What am I going to do there? So I spoke to a professor from Canada who was a friend of mine called Amin Saju. And I said, Amin, I'm going to look stupid in the school. He said, put on a jeans, look young, buy a donut and a coffee. Go to School of Oriental and African Studies, blend in. He said, just talk to the kids, just have fun. He said, the first 10 minutes you're going to feel like a fish out of the water. And afterwards you're going to ask yourself, what the hell? Why didn't I come here any earlier? So I did my master's, LLM. And when I got the results, the university said, would you come and do a doctorate? They said, you are one of the 8 students we are choosing to come to the university to do a doctorate. And so I decided to say, well, this is fascinating. Let me use alternative dispute resolution, ADR, as the focal point to see how diasporic communities in England deal with the interpersonal problems, divorce, marriages, their children, intergenerational conflict. And so I went to do a PhD. So it took me 9 years now to do the PhD. And when I finished the PhD, the university said, now you should write a book. And today the book is being used at universities in Europe, in Leiden, in Harvard, in Britain. So it was a journey. But I could say that the journey started at the nursery school.
Yes, definitely. I would say holding the flag of Marabastad high throughout the world.
Well, I must say on that note, and if I've got a few more minutes, it was our teachers. What made us what we are today were our teachers. There were white teachers who taught us. They taught us with love. I know Miss Bridgens used to beat me up every morning, and I don't want to ever see her in my dream. But there were wonderful teachers. And then we had Asian teachers, Mr. Siriped. There were people like Mr. Jaram, Mr. Rama, Nuru Ismail. She became an inspectress of schools.
I met Nuru.
Nuru, I tell you, she was, every person in Marabastad will remember Nuru touching one part of her life. My sister, whose son is the leading lung and heart transplant surgeon in Canada today. If you talk to the mother who created this boy's life, she said, Nuru taught me how to type and how to stitch. And she sent this boy eventually to the university to become Canada's leading heart surgeon.
Wow.
So that was Nuruban, Mr. Siripat, Natsi Pillai, Mohanbai, Morar Mistry, there was Banu Gulab. These were all teachers. There was Gulam Nur Muhammad, who we used to call Burki, his very beautiful green eyes.
Yes.
There was Mariam Burgess, who was my teacher, who taught me how to read. Auntie Mariam actually taught me to write and encouraged me. When I wrote an essay, she told all the teachers, this boy has got so much talent. And yet the white teachers I had earlier, not all of them, but one of them was really, two of them have beat me up so badly. One was Miss Bridgens and the other one was Mr. Devet. Mr. Devet always made me sit on one side, stand on one side when he was marking my thing, so he could hit me without any inconvenience. I had to stand on one side where he could box my ears. And he used to say, you skunk, you stupid skunk, you stupid skunk, I'll box your ears. And he would box my ears.
Yes.
Now, we had teachers like that too.
Yes.
But it's a good teachers who taught us with compassion and love.
Yes.
And those are the teachers who make
Makes-
me feel eventually that you can go beyond PhD.
Absolutely, the finest human beings. Dr. Keshavjee, South Africa's biggest and most serious crisis currently is the lack of funds for education. In one of our conversations, and this lack of education leads to all the other ills in our country. Being an expat, what do you see the solution to this?
You know, Zaki, I don't think there's a solution. South Africa today is suffering from the legacy of the Bantu Education Act.
Okay.
It was very deeply embedded in the structures of South Africa's architecture, apartheid architecture.
Yes.
And you know, these structures don't get dismantled overnight. One has to keep in mind that when political independence comes to a country, it doesn't mean that overnight things are going to change.
Yes.
We have the most wonderful constitution in the world in this country. I have worked with your judiciary. I was yesterday at the Constitutional Court of South Africa,
Lovely.
met with Judge Colopin, and I was amazed at the symbolism of the architecture of the building, the artwork, and the quality of our judicial culture and discussion when you talk to people like L.B. Sachs, Digan Mosenaki, who had his upbringing also partly in Marabastad, and people like Judge Colopin himself and others. But you got to recall that when the pathology of inequality is deeply embedded in the structures of society, and this is a global phenomenon, you can't change it overnight.
Okay.
Number one. Now, number two, how do we go forward? And this is here, I would say, civil society is critical. It's not only the government that can do it. We need to have groupings in all our communities to help people, help the mentally challenged people, help the educational people. Now, last night I was amazed that literally within 8 minutes, we raised 60,000 rand.
Mashallah.
If that is the seed money, so that every year we can send 2 children, regardless of color, race, creed, whatever, gender, send 2 kids to go to universities. Let them aspire to do PhD one day.
Yes.
Now, I think that is one route. The second route is in America, there's about $92 billion that's untapped.
Yes.
If you have top South African scholars, students who want to go and do masters, want to go do PhD in particular fields that are relevant to today's world, climate justice, questions like gender equity, global food crisis, water management, mediation. These are large fields crying out. And South Africa has talented young people.
Most
If we can send these people to go to top universities in South Africa and overseas, but always to inspire in them, come back to your society. Get the best education outside, but you come back to your society. And we need to create the conditions in this country to give them an opening so they don't want to leave. They must come back with love,
Love.
not
And-
out of compulsion
Yes.
or out of necessity.
Dr. Keshavjee, $92 billion, that seems an amount that seems very hard to fathom. let alone convert to South African currency. Is that how do they get part of that? Is that in an organization, or how is that?
Zaki, thank you for that question. Many students, even in America, don't know how to access these funds because many American organizations, NGOs, large American families, and universities themselves have elaborate approaches to getting that money. There are sports scholarships. If you read the book Cafe Boy, and pardon, I don't mean any illness, that's how the book is known by Mark Matabani.
Yes.
Mark Matabani became a leading South African in America through a sports sponsorship. So there are certain universities that have money only for girls, only for women.
Okay.
Secondly, my brother who's from Marabastad won the highest Canadian award for helping 30,000 children over 30 years to access some of these funds. If there was serious interest, someday later we could start programs for students, for him to talk to, say, 500 students in the Al Ghazali Hall by electronic way.
Yes.
And you could have a program to say, can he guide students how to write their essays, how to write their curriculum vitae? Our children don't know how to write a CV. You go to a 12-year-old kid and say, what do you want to become? They may have a dream, but how do you tell them which books to read?
Yes.
What type of curricula to prepare? What type of voluntary service to give so they can put into their CV? So in America tomorrow, if you say, I'm from Marabastad, I help to collect money for the youth. I was in charge of the volunteer group. All this counts in these universities where this money can be tapped. So there's a special way of tapping this. And if Marabastad is interested, I could ask my brother, who was born in Marabastad, who now has a son who's a professor at Harvard, to say, can we have one big session where we bring all the young boys and girls and have 200-300 boys and girls there and let them ask questions of him. Then how can we get into a top American university? How can sporting help us? How can music help us? How can art and painting help us? And we can make all these children dream in Technicolor. It's possible.
Definitely. So that's another project for the Pretoria Legacy Foundation to undertake and to tap into that industry and see how to help the future scholars of South Africa. Dr. Keshavjee, you are one of the world's top cultural mediators. You've received the highest award for mediating between or teaching students cultural mediation. South Africa is in a very terrible situation right now. We experience xenophobia, racism, gender-based violence. Poverty is at peak. Our government is totally corrupt. There's crime, violence, lack of service delivery. If you were given the opportunity, where would you start right now?
Thank you, Zaki. South Africa produced two of the greatest mediators the world have seen. When I received my award in America, the three people I mentioned were the late Martin Luther King, Mahatma Gandhi, and Nelson Mandela.
Okay.
And both Nelson Mandela and Mahatma Gandhi were South Africans.
Yes. Okay.
And they taught people, and they were both lawyers.
Yes.
And they both taught people there are other ways of doing things. So we can't carry coals to Newcastle. We can't, the old proverb is you don't take coal to Newcastle.
Yes.
For me to bring mediation to South Africa is carrying coal to Newcastle.
Okay.
But we're a society in transition. There's a lot of anger.
Yes.
Apartheid has not exorcised the anger inherent in the average family.
Yes.
We were brutalized. It was a system that brutalized both the oppressor and the oppressed. We are going through a transition. To me, mediation is the way forward. And I was speaking to Judge Colopin yesterday, and I'm going to hopefully speak to 6 or more judges this evening, because we did a training program here last year, and where I did a session with LB Sachs. It's the future. Mediation is the future. Because we can't take every issue to court.
Yes.
If a husband and a wife have a problem, you take the matter to court. The legal system destroys the human family. because the human problem is not amenable to an adversarial solution.
Okay.
When there's a problem, if you and I have an argument, the point is not to come and say, I'm right and you're wrong, and you'll say, no, I'm right and you're wrong.
Yes.
But if I say, look, we both could be right, we both could be wrong. What is the interest on the table that we can work out a solution among ourselves?
Yes.
That you would be happy and I would be happy. You won't lose and I won't unduly gain.
Yes.
We may give a bit here and there.
Absolutely.
And I think that now, after training some members of the South African judiciary, which we did last year, with my Canadian friends who are here with me now,
Yes.
and an international group, I would like to take mediation to the next level. The family, the community, the neighborhood, the school,
Yes.
the football ground. You know, you have neighborhood problems. Two neighbors can fight.
Absolutely.
Right? One neighbor will say, the tree is on this side, you should cut the tree, we should not be looking after it.
Tell me
Something will
about
happen.
it, yes.
Somebody in one area may go and break a window of somebody's. Or somebody may take a wallet belonging to somebody else.
Yes.
Eventually, people are going to say, why did they do that? Bring that little kid here. I want his parents to know he broke my window. He didn't have a right to do that. The parents will say, well, why are you persecuting my kid?
My son.
Eventually, you bring the kid and all the old woman will say, Beta, why did you break my window? You shouldn't have done it.
Yeah.
And then if there's what they call samadhani, mediation,
Yes.
say to the little boy, you shouldn't have done that. What are you going to do to help this person? Say, now look, for 3 weeks, you do the grocery shopping for her.
Yes.
All right? Or come and do the gardening for
Yes.
that. This little boy would say, look, I was naughty. I didn't mean it.
Yes.
I didn't mean to hurt him. But I will do that.
Yes.
And eventually you'll find them bonding. They'll become friends.
Absolutely.
Now, you have bullying in schools among boys and girls. One kid may be bullying because the other kids feel, oh, well, this girl, her haircut is not correct, or she doesn't dress properly, or she doesn't talk to anybody. We can introduce mediation in schools and let the children themselves play act all these problems. But I strongly believe that South Africa's problems of a daily nature should not be litigated in the courts of South Africa. South Africa's courts should be used for litigating the higher purposes on constitutional purpose, on the value of certain interpretations, which only the courts can do. But when two people are having a divorce, why do you need a judge of the High Court to tell you what type to put the little Johnny to sleep? When you're in love with your husband, everybody knows what time the kids should be put to bed.
Yes.
Everybody knows which schools to go to. Everybody knows how to dress them. When there's a fight, then the husband will say, I don't want you to do this. I'll do this for the kids. The wife will say, no, you never did it before. Now why are you forcing me? And everything becomes an issue.
Yes.
And I think that we need mediation to bring back the principles of Ubuntu
And humanity.
and humanity, which is not only Ubuntu, it is what Gandhi taught us, it is our culture, it's in the Indian culture, it's embedded in the Quran, it's in the Bible,
Yes.
it's in the Torah, it's in the Bhagavad Gita, it's everywhere. What we need to do is how do we apply it in our daily relationships, which are of a conflictual nature. And there I hope that the program that I started, I worked, and it wasn't my program. I think my greatest credit goes to the Aga Khan, His Highness, who said, I want you to set up a program that is culturally sensitive,
Yes.
that can be run by people themselves, but it says it must be professional, there must be evaluation, there must be follow-up, there must be an understanding of servicing the most marginal in society. And that's what the program we started aims to do.
Well, there you have it. Mediation is the way forward to solve our problems, inshallah. Thank you so much to Dr. Keshavjee for spending this time, taking off time from his hectic schedule and coming in and enlightening our community about all these issues so far. And inshallah, hope we meet again soon and hope you visit very soon. We're looking forward to your next visit already, Doctor.
Thank you, Zakia. Thank you so much. I would just like to end with this to say my warmest gratitude to all the people of, I still call it Pretoria, it's Shwane, to all the people of Shwane, of all faiths, of all backgrounds, of all races. And I must want to say the last point, that to the Pretoria Legacy Foundation, remember, my mother was trained at the colored school in Van Villa Street. My siblings were delivered by midwives from the colored community. There were African communities among whom we lived who taught us compassion, who taught us love. There were communities from all the different orientations of faith, Muslims, Hindus, Christians, Parsis. They made what we are today. And so when we celebrate Marabastad, let's celebrate the diversity. Unity in diversity. Let us celebrate our differences and see that that is the strength that created the people today, not only in South Africa, but outside, who can feel proud of our District 6 that produced some very outstanding men and women.
Thank you very much. And that's how we end with a nice, colorful rainbow.